Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Today I will talk about, do feelings have a mind? My name is Usman Amin Hotiana. I'm a psychiatrist working at Rashid Latif Medical College. Now, we often think that feelings, emotions, these are something which kind of determine our life, whatever we do, whatever we decision we take. When we look at a beautiful thing, certain something happens which sometimes fills our heart with the kind of joy, or sometimes someone, when somebody is away, we feel a bit sad, we yearn for him, we try to look for him. So we all have found or experienced some kind of feelings in our heart. Sometimes we feel angst, anger, sometimes we feel sad, and sometimes we are facing despair, or hopeful, all these feelings. So today I would like to just briefly discuss few things about how I see feelings interacting with the mind. Now, if we look at the neurobiological aspect, since I'm a psychiatrist, I deal with a lot of biological components, and as a doctor, we are trained to learn about the anatomy, the physiology, biochemistry, and the pathology, the disease part of the brain. So, if we ask the question that what is the location of feelings, for example, so a lot of areas in the brain are kind of attached to different kind of feelings. When we are, for example, when we are fearful, certain areas light up on PET scans. PET scans are uh, a machine which sees which areas of the brain utilize more blood, and it is correlated with the increased working of that part of the brain. So we know from different studies that different areas light up, means they are shown to be working in different states of our mind. So fear network is a very well known system, and we know this area called amygdala. So in fact, there's a whole limbic system. You must have heard about the term limbic system. And amongst that, amygdala is the part which is very strongly connected with the fear emotion, emotion of the fear. So, and at the same time, where is mind? When we talk about the mind is the part of the brain which is, like when I ask this question, where does the mind resides? The mind is the projection of the brain, which constitute about a lot of things. Like, for example, when I say what is the state of the mind, so when I'm saying what is the state of the mind, is actually a consciousness and awareness of the surrounding, of the external environment, and at the same time, state of the mind will also mean somewhat knowing about the internal state, the internal emotions. So three things together come and make this holistic understanding: emotions, perception, and the thinking part. So I see that the perception is the talking bridge between the emotion and the thinking. But does emotion and thinking are two different parts? Is thinking and emotion different, or there's some other relationship? We will see as we go uh, in this discussion. Now, if we use the local term of ashik, for example, now we must, in Punjabi culture in Pakistan, now ashik is a very respectful kind of entity, somebody who can emotionally connect with something to the level where the reasoning is halted, the reasoning is suspended, and at the same time, some people look at it as a pathology also. That, like, if, for example, if I ask you uh, about some dear one, that would you like somebody to be an ashik? So in psychiatrical terms, so who is an ashik? Just let me dare to just kind of just use some psychiatric terminologies to explain an ashik. So an ashik is somebody who you cannot persuade to get away from the path the person is taking. So it could be somebody very passionate, overly passionate, or let's say super passionate, where he's not going to listen to any kind of logic, any kind of thinking pattern. And whatever he's fixated upon, he will go and kind of carry it out. So this question will be open during this discussion, that whether we think it's something uh, to kind of something to replicate, and or is it something which could be a problem in our social network, or also that whether we can create such kind of an ashik or a passionate mind. Can we create it? Can we make somebody learn to know it? Or if we can cure it or manage it somehow. So keep on thinking about this thing during the course of next uh, few logical points or the feeling points. So we have already discussed that feeling and thinking have some place in the mind. Interestingly, uh, mind is not, we are not really clear about the mind part. So in one way, all the function of the brain, we know we have this uh, a small kind of this organ in the skull, and some of you must be knowing the structure. So we have different parts of the brain. The front part of the brain, the part which resides over here, which makes our forehead. So this is supposed to be the evolutionary advantage, which according to Darwin, we thought this was the advantage which we had from chimpanzees, and this has all the decision making power, and this has all the connections, the neural connections, the 400 billion neurons, the brain cells which we have in the brain. So they somehow come together and make decisions. So front part of the brain is more like a decision making part of the brain. So mind, could it be the location of the mind? We're not really sure about it. And it's not very surprising that we don't know much about the brain till now. I have some interest in philosophy, and when I see patients who come with different kind of uh, emotions, and we know that there are some very primary emotions which are hardwired into the human brain, and some emotions are very complex emotions which we face once we are kind of uh, go through the life, and we go through different experiences, and through different learning, and through different kind of newer situations. But those core emotions which are like joy, anger, disgust, surprise, uh, sadness, these five six emotions create, and they are replicated through the face. So in different cultures it was seen that the same kind of uh, facial kind of uh, expressions were available despite the, the difference in the education or the location or the culture. So we have something hardwired. All the emotions which a newborn baby can show are probably the hardwired emotions. And as the time passes, we try to learn about more emotions. And sometimes we learn to conceal our complex emotions. So in history, Charles Darwin, Aristotle, Robert Plutchik, all these people who came after like 50 or 100 years after each other. And Aristotle was, of course, the about 300 BC, came 300 before Christ. So these all have enumerated and listed a number of emotions which range from 12 to 34 in amount. Charles Darwin's, I think, he enlisted 34 emotions. And these emotions, this list run like a sense of shame, humiliation, sadness, joy, disgust, disdain, all this kind of whatever comes to your mind, which you think could be a, even the joy, even the bargain, all these were listed as emotions. If you want to understand the link between emotions and the feelings, so I find it very useful that emotions is basically the ongoing, like a trunk of a tree. It is the ongoing state of mind. uh, More prevalent, persistent feelings are called emotions, and feelings are something which is a bit more refined and more momentary, like branches of the tree. Um, in psychiatry, we typically use the word mood and affect, where from the mood we generally mean something, a pervasive mood, probably of like 2, 3, 4 weeks or a month, and affect is that particular feeling which the person is experiencing at the time of the interview. And the main trunk, if we compare with the example of the tree, the main trunk, the most part uh, of the emotion, which is a lifelong kind of thing for the patient or the person we're talking about, in would be covered through the term personality traits. So we all have some kind of, some people are happy people who may or might be sad for a few weeks or months. And on that one particular day when they are meeting the doctor or somebody new, they might be in the same sad mood, or maybe they can pull up a happy face. उनके देखे से आ जाती है जो चेहरे पे रौनक, वो समझते हैं कि दिमाग का हालत है, वो वाली बात. So philosophers, if we talk about philosophers now philosophers are overwhelmed by their philosophical feelings. And for philosophers, thought and feelings are not very different. They are pretty much the same. The main difference for a philosopher is between the mundane, everyday, typical, monotonous feelings and thoughts, and the big universal feelings and thought. A philosopher is like a child who is just kind of looking at things and questioning everything and wondering why is it happening, who am I, what's going to happen, where we came from, where are we going, all those questions which kind of philosophy asks and sometimes religion tries to answer. So thought and function. Now, I'll be talking about thought and function, and I will imagine for a while that they are pretty much the same for my discussion today, because I will show you some examples that is very difficult to differentiate between the two things, thought and the function and the feeling. Now, thought and feeling are not only created by the world or the environment. Sometimes our thought and feelings could be so powerful that they can impact people around us and even the state of the environment. So Marx kind of said that, for example, he said that ideas can come together and seize the masses, and they can become a force and create a revolution. Okay, let's imagine for a while that what will be a thinking without a feeling look like? So Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher, and he said, for example, uh, he gave an example of a statement like, let's consider all bachelors are unmarried. Now, this is a very logical statement. All bachelors are unmarried. It's a very analytical judgment. It's not really kind of nothing really going on. It's like a logical sequence. All bachelors are unmarried. Compare this from this statement: all bachelors are unhappy. I don't know, they might be happy, but let's say all bachelors are unhappy. Now, this is an emotional experience. You can also say all married people are unhappy, or all married people are happy based upon your experience. Uh, So this is a synthetic judgment. So this is more powerful. This is more moving. This is more kind of something you can feel about. So Kant said that we have this analytical judgment and a synthetic judgment. Both are a bit of different. And if we talk about the human mind, so Pascal, another philosopher, he says human mind is like a thinking reed. Human mind is like a thinking reed. So a reed is a musical instrument. So It's playing its songs, it's kind of playing its music, it's displaying its feelings, and at the same time, it's also thinking. So, in some way, all the dignity of man does consist in thought, but to experience that, feelings are very important. Now, William Blake, a poet, says, I will replace his a small piece of poetry. I will replace one word and I'll tell it at the end. So he says, to feel a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. So actually, he said, I think to see a world in the grain of sand. So I've replaced it from to feel a world in a grain of sand. So this kind of feeling, this kind of a holistic experience when you look at something, and in Urdu we say juz se kul ya kul se juz, from particular to a generalized or from generalized to a particular. So these are two well-known ways how we can make a philosophical argument. Uh, But let's ponder on this. What is the aim of philosophy? Is it the aim of philosophy is to change the world, or also it is to cultivate a more refined, profound feeling concerning about the world and the existence? Or in other words, to kind of make ourselves a very sensitive citizen. Byzantine monks, they use this term called immerse the mind in the hearts. Now, what does it really mean? Immerse the minds in the hearts. So, what they're saying is that do emotionally, ex- whatever you think, try to emotionally experience it also. So they're contemplating about thinking, and at the same time, whatever you think, do connect with the emotional experience. Now, this needs a lot of imagination, and imagination is one of the very profound thing which we have. Imagining,